Welcome to Bluegrass Brooklyn, our podcast all about the music we love, straight from the Bluegrass borough of Brooklyn, New York. Season 3, Episode 12. Welcome, I'm Mike Wilner.
And I'm Liz Wolfe.
And today we head down to Australia for Bluegrass Down Under. There's a thriving bluegrass scene down there, festivals, bands, and we were really interested in hearing about it and thought you'd be interested in too.
This is our last episode of Season 3. Very exciting milestone. We will have a 2-week break before we get to Season 4, Episode 1, where we have very exciting guests that are coming on.
That's right. That's on November 6th. And our first guests are going to be Michael Cleveland and Jason Carter.
And you were able to use some of the questions that people submitted to you for that interview, right?
That's right. We incorporated that into the interview. We got some fascinating insights from those guys. So I'm sure you want to tune in for that.
Another really exciting thing as we launch Season 4 is we will now be also broadcast on an online radio station called The Sonic Planet. And you can listen if you go to thesonicplanet.com. We're going to be broadcast on there at 9 a.m. on Saturday mornings and then rebroadcast on Sunday mornings. And one reason to go and listen on Sonic Planet is not only will we have our interview, but then we will follow the interview with some music from the artists that we have highlighted in our interviews.
So that's 9 a.m. Eastern time, right, Liz?
That's 9 a.m. Eastern. Of course, in New York, you just assume everyone knows that everything is in Eastern time.
Of course.
Yeah, and we have some other developments in progress also. So stay tuned, literally stay tuned for those developments coming up in Season 4. So Mike, what's up with you?
Yep. I'm still gearing up for Fiddle Hell, giving a lot of extra practice. I looked at the schedule. Any musician would benefit. There's going to be instruction and seminars on all different instruments, as well as fiddle, all kinds of genres. We're going to be the podcaster in residence. You can still sign up if you want to go. I really encourage you. Go to fiddlehell.org. And there's still, I think, an early bird discount. So we hope to see you up there. It should be fun. Liz, what's going on with you?
Exciting news that we will be opening up ticket sales for Jam Jersey, which is March 20 through 22 in 2026. And we're going to be launching that in November. So keep your eye out for that as well. jamjersey.com.
Yep. Great event. Can't wait.
Don't forget to follow us on social media at Bluegrass Brooklyn, BKLYN. You can go to bluegrassbrooklyn.com. And, of course, subscribe to our podcast so that you never miss an episode.
By the way, our intro music was Snake's Reach by the High Street Drifters. Okay, I guess we should get started then.
Yes, let's do it.
All right, let's roll. So here we are talking to Neil Adam, who I had the privilege of meeting when I visited Australia and attended the National Folk Festival back in April. Neil, thank you for taking time with us.
Lovely to talk with you.
Neil is one of the organizers of CresFest, which is a signature music festival and folk festival in Melbourne. And we wanted to talk a bit about that and also his point of view on festivals and what's going on down there. So first things first, what is CresFest? Give us an idea of its philosophy and vision.
Judy Turner, my wife, and I were long-term professional musicians, and we inhabited, I guess you would call it the folk world. I'm a guitar player, singer, songwriter, and Judy's a fiddle player. I spent a lot of my youth living in Scotland, playing Celtic music with Celtic bands. And I grew up in a family where traditional Scottish singing was very much the thing that my dad did. So I grew up in that kind of traditional musical environment, I guess you would call it. Then I came to live in Australia in 1989, and we now, in our retirement, live an hour and a half out of the centre of Melbourne, and we live close to a little town called Creswick. The area where we live is called the Goldfields area. And if you'd been here between 1850 and 1880, they were pulling more high-quality gold out of the ground in that period of time than they were anywhere else in the world. The Californian gold rush had moved to this area, lock, stock and barrel, and many other people had joined it. And a lot of small towns were built then on the back of the gold money. Beautiful old buildings, which, of course, since the gold ran out from 1880 onwards, the towns have, well, I guess they've had to change their nature. They've got these beautiful old buildings. And when we first arrived here in 2010, we were looking at all these buildings. And Judy and I, in our touring and traveling lives, used to love playing in beautiful acoustic rooms. Nothing made us happier. We played a lot of gigs through big PAs to audiences, obviously, but nothing made us happier than playing in small rooms to small audiences without a PA. It's just a beautiful thing. And so here in Creswick were all these locked up rooms that hardly saw any use. The old Masonic Lodge, which is such a fantastic building. It took us a year to get inside the building because it was never used. And it was hand painted in 1840. And because Masons are pretty secretive, there are no windows in the Masonic Lodge, and the hand painting of the room is just absolutely exquisite. So what a place for acoustic music. Put 100 chairs in there, and it's just a lovely thing to be able to do. And so the town is full of these lovely buildings. And first of all, we said, wow. Oh, we tried to find the key of the town hall. So it's got a beautiful old Victorian town hall. There hadn't been a live event in the town hall for 15 years.
Wow.
And the people who in the library next door couldn't find the key. So that tells you what wasn't happening in the town in terms of live music. And we were just very happy to think that we might be able to do something to change that. And that indeed is what CresFest has done. So I think in 2019 we started thinking about it, and it's run every year since then, more or less, and it's been a great success. It's in this time when festivals are not necessarily doing well across the world, more folding than starting.
Yes.
We appear to be able to do something different to that.
Is it one event, or there's multiple venues, or how does the festival
No,
work?
we've got all these beautiful buildings and we use them all. Right. The town has got a population of 3,500, so it's not big. It probably will be called a village in England, but it's got a great local population, and all these buildings, we've got access over time to all of them. We put gigs on in front of, I think the biggest venue is the Senior Citizens Centre, which seats 200 people. So that's the way we operate it.
Lovely, intimate, acoustic venues.
Yeah, and the whole idea of the thing is to bring in music that can respond to that setting. So we're not hiring great big rock bands. I mean, we were very conscious that the big rock, etc., festivals were struggling in the marketplace. And that has at least a bit got to do with the people that run them and the requirement to make a big profit off the top. Whereas we are at least 3/4 volunteer run. Judy and I both volunteers. Gradually, as the festival has built itself up, so we employ a few people a day a week or 2 days a week during the year to help. And over time, hopefully, there'll be more of them. We attract 4,000 or 5,000 people to the town, so it doubles in size, and up to 15 venues running all at one time from Friday afternoon through to Sunday evening.
That sounds fantastic. When is CresFest?
It's the first weekend in April.
So we can look forward to that next year. I'm going to make sure I find some excuse to be in Australia next April, and I'm going to fly down to Melbourne with my family probably, and we're going to attend. So what should we expect in terms of music and other activities?
Yeah, well, of course, now that you've got family living in Australia, you've got no excuse for not being here more often.
That's right.
That's a great arrangement, Mike. Well done. So let me talk a little bit about what I think we're doing. I'm speaking for myself. A festival committee is probably 5 or 6 people in our case, and if you got to speak to each one of us, perhaps we thought you'd hear different things being said. Some people would say the most important thing is to bring some action into the town. Other people would say it's great to be running music in small venues. Here's my take on it. And I really don't want to sound at all as if what I'm saying is anti-American music, because I really am absolutely not like that at all. But here's the circumstance in Australia. In 2016, the Australian government brought in this Australian media protection measure, which said that at least 25% of the stuff on Australian TV and on Australian radio should be homegrown, made in Australia, which of course means that 75% is not. And that was brought in to protect, let's say, Australian homegrown media and cultural things. And so the whole idea that 75% would come from outside Australia, actually what that means is that that's American sourced material. Now, Australia is a unique and fantastic country to live in. I'm a migrant here myself, and it has been fantastic. In my work, I was a psychologist working for the education department. In my work, I met many, many fantastic families whose country of origin was somewhere in Africa or somewhere in Asia. Each of those countries have fantastic musical heritages. And of course, in the populations that have migrated here, there are fantastic musicians amongst them. And there are Ghanaian bands, there are players of all sorts. I remember spending a fantastic time in the company of some parents of one of the kids that I worked with in one of the schools I was working at. And the father was a Vietnamese zither player. I don't know if you've ever seen a Vietnamese zither. It's like a Chinese zither. It's a great thing that looks like the top of a table. And I don't know whether it's got 100 strings, but there's a lot of strings in there. I'm watching him fingerpick with both hands. Absolutely incredible thing to watch and to hear. There's great joy in being able to access all these kinds of music here in Melbourne, music that I don't know very much about. I realised then that when we think of musical perfection, if we think about Tim O'Brien's mandolin playing, or if I think about Britain, we think about Martin Carthy's guitar playing, or any of these marvellous players, we have this kind of, let us say, Western focus. And out there in the world, and available in Melbourne, if you know where to look, there are just these fantastic bands playing with such a high level of accomplishment. It's a beautiful thing to see. So my whole feeling about CresFest is, yeah, let's hear from the local bluegrass bands, and let's also have the band from Ghana, and let's have the Vietnamese zither player playing with the Chinese fiddle player. And let's hear from the band that sing all in Italian and come from Puglia in the south of Italy.
That's an amazing diversity. I have to share this with you. I went to some kind of music camp and spent some time learning and playing Western swing stuff. I wandered into a Cajun jam. And if you're not smiling when you're jamming Cajun music, you better go see a doctor, because there's something very wrong. And then I wandered into a class where they were playing Tejano music, which was very old-fashioned Texas, Mexican music. And again, so much fun. It opened my eyes. I realized I've been very bluegrass focused, and now I'm starting to open my musical world up to all different kinds of playing. That sounds like part of what CresFest might do, is just open up to all different kinds of music and genres of music.
I think it really is, Mike. That's exactly what we're on about.
Music is a binding and joining energy. Whenever musicians from cultures come together, let them hang out together long enough, you'll have a mix of those cultures' music coming out. And it's just a universally powerful energy and powerful force. And the fact that you're doing that blending down there is pretty amazing.
One thing that I've realised I've missed out is to talk about the music of Indigenous relations here in Australia. There are very many fantastic musicians whose focus is on Indigenous life here in Australia. This year at the festival, we had 3 or 4 Indigenous performers, and they perform in a variety of genre. And it's great to be able to have a focus on that kind of music.
Yeah, it's very worthy. Our listeners will be very interested in hearing some of this.
Yeah, the influence of American music on Indigenous music is very great. Obviously, if you were an Indigenous person growing up in country Australia, the kind of things that you would have heard coming through your radio, if you're 70 years old like me, when you were a kid growing up, would have been almost exclusively American country music. And so there's a fantastic amount of material written by Indigenous people in a sort of a country style, but about their own lives, which were poor, oppressed, and badly treated. There are populations, Indigenous populations in remoter areas where it's still not easy to find people who speak English. The wealth of Indigenous knowledge is still very, very high. We had a fantastic singer-songwriter, Stuart Joel Nugget is his name, and he really is a great player. And I've run this podcast, Mike, as you know, based on the artists who perform with us. And we ran a series of interviews during CresFest this year. We've got a couple of people who are notable radio presenters in their own right come along and interview artists in front of an audience. And there's a lovely conversation between Stuart Joel Nugget and one of our interviewers where they're talking about where his music comes from, what he's thinking, and so on. And that's a really lovely thing.
I just want to shift the topic a little bit. Here in the U.S., I just kind of mentioned we have a lot of, I'll call them music camps. I'll go off to a retreat or a remote location. There'll be many A-list and professional players and instructors, and I'll spend a week taking classes, jamming, socializing, and that kind of thing. Is there much of a tradition of that in Australia?
Well, interesting enough, in Australia, there isn't really that tradition of kids going away to join a gang of like-minded people in some country place where they pursue a mutual interests for the summer months. We don't have that tradition here in Australia really at all. But that's not to say that those kind of things don't happen here. So, for example, Judy Turner, my wife, she's a fiddle player too, like you. Not a bluegrass player, but a classically trained person who plays traditional Scottish music, Celtic music really. She first went to Alistair Fraser's Valley of the Moon camp, which takes place every year in California. And Alistair's resident in the States for a long time now, but one of Scotland's best-known fiddle players. He runs the Valley of the Moon camp, and there are very many great players have come through that. I don't know how long that's been running, but I want to say at least 30 years, probably 40.
Wow.
But gangs of young people and interested adults go there every year. And Judy went there, I would say, probably for the first time in the 1990s, and came back with the idea that we could be doing something similar but Australian sort of focused, really.
Right.
And so I'd need to look up the year that it first ran. I want to say 2016. And that year, Alistair came across, Alistair Fraser, as one of the guest teachers to get the boat sailing, I guess you could say. And it's just gone on from strength to strength. It runs every year now. It attracts up to 100 people who come for a week, and great learning happens there and great fun is had. And it's now, I'm happy to say, again, this is not because we don't want Alistair here, it's just much better to be able to employ homegrown people who've grown up in Australia. I think it sends out a much better message.
Right.
High quality cultural performance. We've got it here in our country. Australians talk a lot about growing up with the cultural cringe. I don't know if you've ever heard that expression, but it's something that Australians use all the time. It's like, for generations, people in Australia used to look to Britain as part of the British Empire and to Europe as the source of all great culturally important things that were happening, and felt like what was homegrown here in Australia was not necessarily of high enough quality to be proud of. And anything that we can do, there's still a bit of a feel like that, slightly in the country. In comparison with the States, for example, the population is tiny. I don't know if your listeners will know this, but I think I'm right in saying that the USA has got 10 times the population of Australia. I think Australia is 20%, in terms of area, 20% smaller than the US. So Australia is a massive country, almost as big as the United States, but the population is so spread out. Therefore, people with interest in minority musics are well spread out, which is why the National Folk Festival has to take place every year in one place, and people come literally from all over the country. And String Mania serves a similar purpose. Young people travel from all over Australia. And more recently, we've been able to attract people from the States as well, coming out to take part.
Well, maybe I have to make 2 trips a year to Australia. I'll talk to my daughter. I'll say, get her to plead with her mother to please come over more frequently.
Yes, exactly. It seems like your daughter needs a bigger house.
I agree. You're 100%. So if the listeners want to find out more about CresFest, String Mania, and just generally the music scene in what is, I guess, Southern Australia, where would be a good place to look or good places to look?
Yeah, good places to look. Well, I'm obviously going to start by promoting our own festival. So cresfest.com.au. And if you look for String Mania Fiddle Camp, also online, you can find that. In this area where we live, you were talking before about the festival season.
Right.
And of course, we also have a festival season, mostly late summer, early autumn in our time, which is February through to April. So that's the time when festivals are happening nearly every weekend. One of the biggest festivals in Australia. So I was saying that we attract 4,000 or 5,000 people to our small town, and we've got this intimate feel about it. But if any of your listeners are interested in something bigger, Port Fairy Music Festival. So if you look, Port Fairy is a small town down on the coast, but it has for, I think, 40 years been the home of one of Australia's biggest acoustic music festivals.
Wow.
So they're attracting big names and they're putting them in big tents with screens down the front. You could get to sit in a 5,000-seater venue and watch world names. It's great.
Okay, well, Neil, thank you. Really appreciate you taking time. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again when we make our way back down under.
That's great, Mike. I look forward to you coming to see your daughter more often.
For sure. Bluegrass is a uniquely American phenomenon, but it has become international as well. As early as 1975, you can hear albums of J.D. Crowe and the New South performing live in Japan. There's festivals all over the world. I don't know why, therefore, I was so surprised and amazed to find bluegrass music was thriving in Australia. I wanted to introduce you to some of the sounds that have captivated me and maybe get you interested in bluegrass down under. When I visited the National Folk Fest in Canberra, Australia in April of this year, and ran into the High Street Drifters. They are a traditional, straight-ahead, hard-driving bluegrass band. I spoke to their frontman, Justin Belches, and we had a great conversation, which you can listen to in our On the Road Australia episode. But I recently ran into him again at the IBMA World of Bluegrass. IBMA invites bands from all over the world to be part of their international showcase, and they're putting some real effort into internationalizing bluegrass music. In fact, the intro music to this episode and the outro music you're going to hear are both by the High Street Drifters, and I wanted to play this tune for you called Back to the Hills. So first, let's have a listen. That's bluegrass, right? Well, I asked Justin who he listened to and who he drew inspiration from. And he told me about the Davidson Brothers. So Davidson Brothers, they have almost the same kind of story as you would hear about a American bluegrass band. They grew up in rural Australia. They came from a musical family, and the brothers and family started playing together at an early age. Does this sound familiar? And ultimately, they became one of Australia's hottest bluegrass acts. The band comprises a standard or the traditional bluegrass configuration, banjo, dobro, fiddle, etc. In fact, why don't we give a listen to one of their songs. It's called Davidson County. So I think you would probably agree with me. This is pretty bluegrassy. But get this, both the High Street Drifter song and Davidson County by the Davidson Brothers are originals, written by members of the band. So that indicates to me that they really do have a feel for the music, and they got the soul of the music. I wanted to look into some other bands. I came across 9 Mile Creek, which is very centered on traditional bluegrass music. However, I have a pretty strong hint of old time. Why don't we listen to their rendition of Leaving Rosine? I think you see what I mean. They sound very old-timey and they sound very traditional. And yet South Australia, New South Wales, is about as far away from Appalachia geographically on the planet as you can get. In addition to the traditional sounding bluegrass bands, there are a few which are preserving bluegrass tradition, but clearly addressing modern themes and current themes. I wanted to introduce you to the Water Runners. They're from the south coast of Australia, New South Wales, and they've been making music since the 80s. They're still around, they're still touring, still appearing at festivals, still winning awards. So why don't we have a listen to one of their tunes? This one is South Coast Dreaming.
South Coast dreaming, dreaming of leaving tonight. South Coast dreaming, leaving the city behind. Heading down that Princess Highway.
Yeah, I think you'll agree with me that it's bluegrass music, but a date sound and up-to-date theme. I wanted to add one more band to the list. Here's a band out of Melbourne, Australia. It's called Mustard Courage. They call themselves progressive bluegrass. I think that means they take the traditional bluegrass, they mix in elements of jazz, jam band, sort of jamgrass type of thing, country and rock. Well, you know what? Let's have a listen to one of their tunes. It's called Southern Style. So what did you think? I, from myself, am so impressed with and encouraged by the fact that Australia has been building their bluegrass tradition. They have a festival circuit we heard about in the previous segment. They have bands that tour in Australia and internationally. I think this is only a good thing for bluegrass music. The more people who love it, live it, and play it, the more it grows and the more it's sustained in the future. So I was very happy to learn more about Bluegrass Down Under. I hope you enjoyed it. And maybe you'll find your way down to New South Wales next year and visit CresFest or go to one of the many other festivals, or at least go to Spotify or your favorite streaming service and give a listen to some of these great bands. Really interesting to hear about the thriving bluegrass scene in Australia. I know I was surprised to find it there, and I'm very happy to find it there.
Bluegrass is everywhere, and it's a really, really wonderful thing. And just wondering how I can propose to my husband that we have one more festival to go to. It just so happens that we have to get on a plane and fly 30 hours to do it. But it sounds so amazing. I definitely want to go.
Yeah, I'm hoping I can schedule a trip there as well. So please remember to follow us at Bluegrass Brooklyn, Brooklyn spelled BKLYN. You can go to bluegrassbrooklyn.com. If you want to find jams in Uptown Manhattan, Bronx, and Riverdale, New Jersey, and elsewhere, definitely go check out bluegrassjamsnearme.com. So Liz, we all set?
That's it. We'll see you in season 4.
Yeah, and we look forward to seeing you around the jam circle.
Overalls and cotton dreams, she's still on my mind it seems. Do I wait for you? Have I been here before?
To take us out, we have Words of Leaving by the High Street Drifters.
And like the wind loves floating out the door. There's no words to say you're leaving, more than that look in your eye. Like high beams on a 2-lane road, driving through the night. The love you know tomorrow won't mean a thing to me when I'm out here chasing sorrow on the road to misery.